In 1900, sponge divers pulled a lump of corroded bronze off the seafloor near a Greek island. It sat in a national museum for 2 years before anyone looked at it closely. When they did, there was a gear wheel inside it, cut bronze teeth, machined, and even the wreck was 2000 years old. Nothing with gears like that was supposed to exist for another 14 centuries. So the experts decided the date must be wrong and the object went into a drawer. It stayed there for 50 years. What was inside it is the most sophisticated machine known from the ancient world, and it took a hospital scanner to prove it. Start with the divers, because they had no idea what they had found. They were sponge divers from the island of Simi, on their way home from North Africa. A storm pushed them off course, and they sheltered by a bare rock called Antikythera. While waiting out the weather, one of them went down to look for sponges. He surfaced almost immediately, saying there were dead bodies on the sea floor. The captain went down himself and came back up holding a bronze arm. They had landed on top of a shipwreck, 45 meters down. The ship had gone down around 60 years before the birth of Christ. It was a cargo vessel carrying Greek luxury goods, almost certainly towards Rome. Statues in bronze and marble, glassware, jewelry, furniture, fittings, coins. The Greek Navy helped raise it over the following year, using divers in heavy suits. At that depth in 1900 that was close to suicide. One diver died of the burns, 2 more were left permanently paralyzed. It was the first large underwater excavation ever attempted, and it was paid for in exactly that way. Everything came up caked in 2000 years of marine growth. The statues were the prize. The rest was catalogued and shelved. Among the shelved material was a shoe-sized lump of bronze and rotten wood. As it dried out over the following months, it cracked apart on its own. In May 1902, an archaeologist noticed what was in the crack: a wheel with teeth cut from bronze sheet with a triangular tooth profile and even spacing. He said so publicly and was not taken seriously. The objection was not stupid, and that is worth being fair about. Nothing else in the ancient record has gearing like that. Not one comparable object survives. Greek and Roman writers describe astronomical devices, but descriptions are cheap. So the simplest explanation was that the gear was later and had fallen into the wreck by accident. A medieval clock part, perhaps from a passing ship. It sounds absurd now. It was reasonable then. The lamp went into storage as an unexplained fragment. This is the part that matters more than the machine itself. It was not lost. Nobody had to find it. It was in a national museum, in a case with a number. Anyone could have asked for it for 50 years. Essentially, nobody did. Not because it was hidden, but because the answer was already settled. A thing that cannot exist does not need explaining, it needs filing.
2 world wars passed over Greece while it sat there.
In the 1950s, an English historian of science began asking about it seriously. Derek de Solla Price spent 20 years on the problem, mostly being ignored. The obstacle was physical. The fragments are solid corrosion. You cannot see inside them. Taking them apart would destroy them, and there is exactly one. So in 1971 he brought in a physicist and used radiation instead, gamma rays and X-rays exposed onto film to photograph the inside of a rock. The plates showed gears stacked behind gears in layers. The full answer needed technology that did not exist until this century.
In 2005, a team brought a purpose-built X-ray scanner to Greece.
Athens. It weighed 8 tons. It had been designed for inspecting turbine blades. It produces a 3-dimensional image of the inside of solid metal, slice by slice. They also lit the surfaces from dozens of angles to read what was written on them, because the plates were covered in writing, and most of it had been invisible. They recovered thousands of characters. It is in effect an instruction manual. So here is what the object actually is: a wooden box about the size of a thick book with bronze dials on the front and back. Inside, at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, probably more originally. A handle on the side turns the whole train. You set it to a date and turn. The front dial shows the sky, the zodiac, the calendar, and the positions of the sun and the moon.
A small ball, half silver and half black, rotates to show how much of the moon is lit.
Not a symbol of the moon, a model of it geared to the same handle. One detail inside is better than everything else, and it is easy to miss. The moon does not move across our sky at a constant speed. It speeds up and slows down. Greek astronomers knew this and could describe it mathematically. Whoever built this reproduced it mechanically. Two gears are mounted slightly off-center from each other, joined by a pin sitting in a slot. As they turn, the pin slides in the slot and the output speeds up and slows down exactly as the moon does. That is a mechanical solution to a problem in astronomy, built by hand before the Roman Empire existed. The back of the box is where it becomes hard to argue with. Two large spiral dials, one above the other, each with a pointer that follows a groove. The upper spiral is a 19-year calendar that keeps months and years in step. The lower spiral predicts eclipses. Eclipses repeat on a cycle of about 18 years and 11 days. The dial runs that cycle. The glyphs on it say whether an eclipse is solar or lunar and roughly what hour to expect it. There is also a small dial that counts down to the Olympic Games. Now put it in order against everything else that survives. After this, nothing with comparable gearing appears anywhere for about 1400 years. The next machines of that complexity are the astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. 14 centuries is not a pause, it is longer than the gap between us and Charlemagne. This is where people reach for lost civilizations and visitors from elsewhere. The evidence points the other way, and it is a better story. Look at the object as an engineer would. The teeth are cut to a consistent profile. The spacing is even. The layout is efficient. Nothing about it is experimental. There are no false starts, no clumsy fixes. It is a competent product made by someone who had made things like it before. Devices like this are never a first attempt. Behind everyone is a trade, with pupils and rivals and standards. That is what the mechanism actually proves. Not a miracle, but a tradition. And of that entire tradition, this is the only piece we have. The wreck is still being excavated. Divers go back most years. They have found more statue fragments, a bronze arm, and human bones from the crew. A second mechanism has not turned up. It probably never will. Bronze was valuable, broken devices were melted and became something else. This one survived precisely because it sank and nobody could recycle it. The only reason we know any of this is that a ship went down in the wrong place. The pattern here is the one that keeps coming back. The evidence was available and the answer was already decided. That is what this channel does. One story at a time, with the part that got left out put back in new one every week or two. Subscribe if you would rather know what was buried than what was published.